I like to think of data analysts as change makers, not because I am a data analyst, but because we provide facts that allows organizations and society have robust conversations, whether these conversations are practical or complex matters. For example, we can talk about website performance, but how does the conversation changes when you know that 47% of users expect a page to load in 2 seconds or less, or they will abandon your web page? We can talk about sea level rising, but how does the conversation changes when you know that 60% of the population worldwide lives within 100 kilometers of the coast? How does the conversation changes when you live within 100 kilometers of the coast? We can talk about children being safe in schools, but how does the conversation changes when you know that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 17? Data is powerful, and with data we can create awareness. And we can provide evidence that can lead to different conversations and hopefully to better decision making. And besides the obvious point that is not always easy, for some organizations it is easier to implement data initiatives. You have the team, you have the budget, you have the systems to make it happen. So you're only dealing with the complexity of the project. For some other organizations, it's not as straightforward. You have small teams, limited time, limited budgets, concerns about using data for decision making. And I know most of you are not working in education or with international schools, but maybe you're working in a small organization that faces some of these challenges. Or your clients are small, medium-sized organizations, non-for-profits, that want to engage in a data-driven path, but yet they don't know how to do it. And that's what I want to share with you today, how the Council of International Schools is implementing data-informed initiatives in international schools around the world when our circumstances are not easy. We're a small team, we have limited time, we have limited budget, and the reality of many of our schools isn't different either. They have small teams, limited time, and limited budget. And yet, you have to make it happen. If you're not familiar with the Council of International Schools, we are a membership community, and we have 700 schools under our umbrella. And we have 700 schools in 112 countries. This is how great ideas begin at CIS. And I took this picture at the International School of Helsinki, where we are discussing practical tools that can support teachers and administrators better understand the learning and communication preferences of students, taking into consideration their cultural background. Often international schools have a very diverse population, 30, 40, 50 different students in a classroom, or a highly mobile population. Children that at a very young age have lived in 2, 3, 4, 5 different countries. And the notion of self, time, hierarchy, values has a different perspective in different parts of the world. So learning the preferences of students is as important as what students are learning. To give you an example, think about what 10 o'clock means to you. You have an appointment at 10. Are you ready at 10? Maybe a few minutes earlier. Where I come from, 10 o'clock is just a notion to indicate some time between 10 and 10:30, or 10 and 11. And this translates into a learning preference. Think about how you communicate. Do you like to provide practical solutions, or do you prefer to give creative ideas? Think about your conversations. Can you have 4 different conversations at the same time? Some people can do this. My mom can do this, and it is really impressive. But for some others, you can't. You can only focus in one. And this translates into a learning style. Peter Welch, the head of the school, developed a research-based survey to identify learning preferences of students. And we wanted to provide a user-friendly tool to collect the data and to share the data, not only for the International School of Helsinki, but also for any of our member schools located in 112 countries. So now, the picture that I showed you in the beginning translates to data collection, data validation, converting raw data into visually appealing data, analyzing it, mining it, and sharing it back. We also wanted a tool that could serve students, teachers, leaders, and board members, and encourage different conversations among these groups. And the main requirement that day was it has to be all in one page. Data collection was not the challenge. CIS is really good at collecting data. We collect large volumes of data. And if you're thinking, well, how much data can you collect from schools? These are the data fields from one entity in our CRM, and we have 87 entities. And any of these fields can update in a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. We have the data. We can analyze it. But we always struggle on how to share this back in secure, user-friendly, visually appealing interactive formats. And the reason why we're so excited is because with the implementation of Power BI, and in less than 6 months, we were able to move from collecting large volumes of data to sharing it back in visually appealing formats. We moved from Excel files and PDF files embedded in the portal to reports with a near-live connection to the CRM. And all the images that you see in the slides are reports that before were in Excel or PDF format embedded in the portal. And if you have software developers working in your companies, this may not seem so exciting. But when you don't, and you can create this information and share it, it produces a lot of joy. So to give you an idea of how things have changed, we have a portal. Before, schools enter information in the portal. The information is stored in the CRM. Now, schools enter information in the portal. The information is stored in the CRM. We create reports that we can embed as widgets. We create reports in Power BI that we can embed as widgets in the portal. To talk briefly about integrations that were needed to make this happen, we have an on-premise CRM, not in our office, but in a different location, so we needed to research for possible connector options. We were advised to use a Scribe and an Azure SQL database to connect CRM to Power BI. Our CRM provider built these connections for us, so if you have questions about this process, most likely I don't have the answers, but I am happy to connect you to the person that can provide you these answers. And if you're wondering, why is there a dinosaur next to Dynamic CRM 2011? For 2 reasons. To state the obvious, it's a pretty old version. And second, because we couldn't foresee the challenges that we're approaching once Microsoft stopped providing mainstream support to CRM 2011. So the implementation took place in 7 days. By the end of March, we published our own organizational dashboard. And after that, we started building aggregate reports and refining data, validating data, doing soft launches in the portal. And by the end of September, we notified this to our schools, and we said, we have new data for you. And it has been very well received. So now we have the ability to engage in different projects. And in less than a month, we were able to create a secure, user-friendly report to identify student learning preferences. And this is, we couldn't do 1 page, we did 2. But because Power BI allows you filtering options, you can know different levels of details of the same information. And I also really like that any bar or any component in a report is also a filtering options. So if I want to know more about students who have a parent from Denmark, and I select Denmark in the bar, the report shows me those students. Sorry. This is the student report. As I said before, the survey has 50 questions, so each bar translates into an answer. They wanted the 50 questions in one page. We were able to make that happen. And what I like about it is that it's visually appealing. And when you scroll over the bars, it tells you what each bar stands for. So now teachers can easily identify who needs more flexibility, students that can engage in several tasks at the same time, students that may have difficulties when speaking with authority, or students that may have difficulty when participating in a debate. The report also supports students understanding their own learning preferences, and it can support them creating their learning plans. And think about how different conversations are going to be now between teachers and students, between teachers and parents, teachers and principals, now that we have this information available. So we did the pilot with 16 schools in 16 different countries, and in September, we're ready to launch this to any of our schools that want to participate. Tools need to be complemented with proper training. We can build great tools that will be of zero use if users don't understand them or don't understand the importance of the subject. So our data initiatives are accompanied by training. And this is Peter Welch at the Symposium on Intercultural Learning in Amsterdam 3 weeks ago. And these are teachers and administrators, and they're making a human graph in which they are rating their learning preferences, just as we are asking students to do. On the same note, we can build the greatest tools that no one will use if there are concerns about using data. And this is a mindset that we often find, and it's a mindset that we need to shift. Leaders in schools or organizations play a crucial role, changing the negative connotation of using data. The reassurance must come from the top that no teacher will be fired, no students will be exited. The important thing is what we do with the data. How do we problem solve if the data indicates something negative is happening? And how do we use data to get us closer to our vision? I worked at the American School of Doha before, and the director of the school back then, Dr. Deb Welch, she set these norms in place about using data. And once you build trust around it, people come on board, and they start using data to understand it and use it for improvement. Schools also need to know information to drive up operational efficiency or answer research questions, like, are tuition fees competitive? Are we paying competitive salaries to attract and retain teachers in our schools? So now we can provide that information to answer those questions. Internally, we also had a lot of questions, and Power BI allows you to build more complex queries and build relationships that doesn't exist in the system. So that's also very helpful. Given that we were in a data collection mindset, the focus so far is, or has been, what data do we have that can help schools answer questions? But now we are moving towards what data do schools need to answer the questions that matter? And what data do we need to collect to make that happen? We're transitioning to Salesforce this summer, and this is a great opportunity for us to revise our database and to revise the data fields that we are working with. And I would like to end with a quote that Michael Hoskin from Nishimachi International School mentioned at the end of the symposium, and I think it's a great takeaway, regardless of your field of work. And taking into consideration this time of information overload, he said, you need to measure what you value, rather than valuing the measure. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we're encouraging the schools to do. Thank you.